Good morning. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Joel Ibanez, and I'm here as your worship associate today. I'm joined by Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, and Karen Magoon Pearson, who is our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth in welcoming youth this morning. Our minister, Reverend Sean Wilshire, is not leading the service today, but she does have a special message for you.
Good morning, everyone. So as you're watching this video, I've started my sabbatical and I'm driving up north to the Bay Area to see my older sister there. And you know, when I was thinking about this summer and who we wanted to bring, of course, Michael was one of the first people I thought of for a spot because I know he's such a big favorite of this church. So welcome, Michael. Thanks for starting out my sabbatical with such a wonderful, for lack of a better word, bang, as I know you always touch people with your hearts so deeply. So everyone have an absolutely fabulous service.
All right. We would also like to go ahead and recognize the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today. And in addition, this morning, we are delighted to have Michael Eselun, who serves as chaplain for the Sims-Mann UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. As a two-time TEDx speaker, Mike speaks extensively to healthcare professionals, patient populations, and faith communities all across the country. He's worked as an activist, educator, addressing anti-LGBTQ bias in the larger community for over 30 years, and was recently inducted into the UCLA Semel Institute Eudaimonia Society in recognition of having a meaning-driven life. He has CDs available for purchase outside and can be contacted through his website at www.michaeleselun.com. OCUUC respectfully recognizes that our church property rests on Ahachiman and Tongva land. I would like to invite you to open the chat box and say hello this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather by a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones, and for our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will also have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. We will begin our worship in the lighting of the chalice, and this morning, I'd like to invite Susan Shaw up here to light our chalice. Susan, who is also known by her dad, who called her Susie Q, has been a friend of OCUUC for 23 years, since the year 2000. She does like gardening and wants to be a farmer if and when she grows up. So join me together in saying, love is the spirit of this church and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Please join us in singing our opening song.
We're going to sing this twice through, and then if you are a choir member or a singer type person, when I give you the signal, you can add in a round after we sing it twice through. Be still and know both day and night. Be still and know that dark and light are one holy circle. One more time all together. Be still, know both day and
Good morning. As a call to worship this morning, I'd like to offer this from Janet Rebhan, Finding Tranquility Base. I searched among her crayons for a color that represented autumn and pulled out an orange-toned crayon, never used. It read bittersweet, and I wondered why that particular name. Autumn was my favorite time of year. I was always ready for the change. I guess some people didn't see it that way. Some people wanted to cling to summer. I love both seasons, but I thought no one would ever call spring bittersweet, even though it was just another change, another new cycle, an end to one season and the beginning of another in an endless, never-ending spiral.
Touch the wooden gate in the wall you never saw before. Say please before you open the latch. Go through. Walk down the path. A red metal imp hangs from the green-painted front door as a knocker. Do not touch it. It will bite your fingers. Walk through the house. Take nothing. Eat nothing. However, if any creature tells you that it hungers, feed it. If it tells you that it is dirty, clean it. If it cries to you that it hurts, if you can, ease its pain. From the back garden, you will be able to see the wild wood. The deep well you walk past leads down to Winter's realm. There is another land at the bottom of it. If you turn around here, you can walk back safely. You will lose no face. I will think no less of you. Once through the garden, you will be in the wood. The trees are old. Eyes peer from the undergrowth. Beneath a twisted oak sits an old woman. She may ask for something. Give it to her. She will point the way to the castle. Inside it are 3 princesses. Do not trust the youngest. Walk on. In the clearing beyond the castle, the 12 months sit about a fire, warming their feet, exchanging tales. They may do favors for you if you are polite. You may pick strawberries in December's frost. Trust the wolves, but do not tell them where you are going. The river can be crossed by the ferry. The ferryman will take you. The answer to his question is this: if he hands the oar to his passenger, he will be free to leave the boat. Only tell him this from a safe distance. If an eagle gives you a feather, keep it safe. Remember that giants sleep too soundly, that witches are often betrayed by their appetites, dragons have one soft spot somewhere always, hearts can be well hidden, and you betray them with your tongue. Do not be jealous of your sister. Know that diamonds and roses are as uncomfortable when they tumble from one's lips as toads and frogs. Colder, too, and sharper, and they cut. Remember your name. Do not lose hope. What you seek will be found. Trust ghosts. Trust those that you have helped to help you in their turn. Trust dreams. Trust your heart, and trust your story. When you come back, return the way you came. Favors will be returned, debts be repaid. Do not forget your manners. Do not look back. Ride the wise eagle, you shall not fall. Ride the silver fish, you will not drown. Ride the grey wolf, hold tightly to his fur. There is a worm at the heart of the tower, that is why it will not stand. When you reach the little house, the place your journey started, you will recognize it, although it will seem much smaller than you remember. Walk up the path and through the garden gate you never saw before but once, and then go home, or make a home, or rest.
Invite Karen Magoon-Pearson, the Director of Religious Education, to light the children's chalice, and then we're going to sing the children and teachers out to their classes.
I invite us to go within for a silent time of reflection and contemplation. Perhaps close your eyes, get comfortable in your seats as we move into this time. Let's breathe a few nice, deep breaths together and quiet our minds. We let go of the concerns of the day with each breath, of the week behind us and the week ahead of us, and we simply follow the empty breath. We come back to that image of the love that resides in that mysterious place between holding on and letting go, a place we might at times call bittersweet. We breathe into a place beneath our need to characterize it as one thing or the other, a place in which we can simply surrender into the constant state of change, the never-ending, endless spiral of life. As a reading this morning, I'd like to offer this from poet Wendell Berry. No, no, there is no going back. Less and less you are that possibility you were. More and more you have become those lives and deaths that have belonged to you. You have become a sort of grave containing much that was and is no more in time, beloved then, now, and always. And so you have become a sort of tree standing over the grave. Now more than ever, you can be generous toward each day that comes young to disappear forever and yet remain unaging in the mind. Every day you have less and less reason not to give yourself away.
Let the life I live speak for me. Let the life I've lived speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the work I've done speak for me. Let the work I've done speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the work I've done speak for me. Let the love I've shared speak for me. Let the love I've shared speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the love I've shared speak for me.
A few years ago, my dear friend and colleague at the Sims Mann Center, Lorelei Bonet, was preparing a lecture to give to an upcoming oncology social work conference. What are you going to talk about, Lorelei? Ecotones, she said. I never heard that word before. What, is that some kind of a retro punk environmental cover band? Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the Ecotones. No, she went on to explain it's those transitional zones in nature between two adjacent ecosystems that are not exactly one thing or the other, like where a grassland meets a forest or where a river meets the sea. I love that there was a word for these places in nature that fascinate me. She was using it as a metaphor for places that cancer patients often find themselves caught between competing realities. I love it as a metaphor for any of us as we move into life's deeper mysteries, crossing boundaries and thresholds into territory that is not exactly one thing or the other, despite all of our need to see it as such. And yet I find it is in those liminal spaces that perhaps we have greater access to something we might even call truth, or perhaps even brush up against the sacred. In the summer of 2005, I took a week-long seminar on Cape Cod with the well-known author and psychologist Thomas More. Thomas has made his life's work a study of the nature of soul, and he constructed the workshop in such a way that we only spent half days together because he wanted us to spend the other half of the day out on the Cape, letting it work its magic on us, he said. He didn't have to tell me twice. I fell in love with the place, particularly the marshes and wetlands, territory, ecotones that are not exactly land or sea, changeable moment to moment with the shifting of the tide. That love affair continues to this day, nearly every summer ever since. Scott and I spend a week in Provincetown at the very tip of Cape Cod, and one of my favorite things to do there is to float effortlessly on the incoming or outgoing tide over the marsh, swallowed up into this magical netherworld. A sunrise or a sunset can but be a kind of ecotone too, neither day nor night, neither light nor dark. I love the word evening for its unintended implication. It's an evening out between day and night. Yet it is in that narrow time frame where we get to experience all those magnificent colors and dramatic shadows. In February of 2019, I took a 2-week solo journey across southern India from east to west, starting in Chennai and ending in Kerala, in Cochin. The penultimate stop on my itinerary was a teeny village high in the mountains, the Western Ghats, they're called, of Kerala, of Muthuvankudi. It's a region that's known for tea and spice plantations not far from the town of Munnar. I spent 2 nights at the Ecotones Lodge, if you can imagine. 8 Spartan rooms situated in the most stunning landscape imaginable. One night I was the only guest at the lodge. When I arrived, I immediately booked 2 guided walks with a local guide, Vishak. Vishak was 27, bright, curious, engaging, knew everything about every plant, every flower, every crop, knew everything about every bird in the neighborhood. He had a wanderer's heart himself, and he dreamed of destinations far from Kerala, though not quite sure he'd even heard of Los Angeles. The first walk would be that very afternoon I got there, a spice and culture walk. We walked through lanes, down roads, through farms, plantations, jungles, talking every step of the way about everything. We even got caught in an afternoon thunderstorm, and we took refuge on the porch of one of the houses in the village. And when the woman of the house saw me out on her porch, she quickly brought out a chair for me to sit down. It was an enchanted afternoon. The next morning would be our sunrise walk. Vishak told me he'd pick me up at 5:30. I set the alarm for 5 o'clock, got up and took an ice-cold shower because 10 more minutes of sleep seemed more precious than the slim chances of getting any hot water. I got dressed. I went outside early because my host, Sijo, had promised me a hot cup of tea before the walk. The super full moon was still high in the sky, illuminating the landscape in this eerie, silvery glow, casting moon shadows everywhere. The breathing stillness of the morning soothed my spirit, the coolness, the silence. Thank goodness Vishak brought a flashlight, because once we got under the canopy of trees, it was so dark you could not see your hand in front of your face. We walked in silence mostly. The only sound was the crunch of gravel under our feet. But soon birds began to awake and sing to one another. And then there was the call to prayer from a nearby mosque. We walked a few feet further, and there was a gong and chanting from a Hindu temple. Once we came out from under the canopy of trees back into the moonlight, we didn't need the flashlight anymore. Vishak took a hard left turn up a steep hill. "This way, Michael." And we scrambled up over rocks and boulders until we landed on this enormous slab of granite, this plinth high on a precipice with this stunning view of the valley and the mountains surrounding it. "We will wait here for the sun," he said. "Okay?" Oh, it was more than okay. Emily Dickinson once wrote, "I'll tell you how the sun rose, one ribbon at a time." It wasn't like that for me. that morning. I was transfixed by the moonlight on the mountaintops, enshrouded in clouds, creating another kind of ecotone. You couldn't tell where the land ended and the sky began. But just then, this pink glow began to emerge from behind one of the mountains. And just then, a renegade appendage of clouds swirled up in the sky, its edges catching the hidden sunlight. It looked like a fire-breathing dragon for a moment, and then, just as quickly, it disappeared. And then the sun shone itself and announced the beginning of a brand new day. We sat there for maybe 45 minutes. Soon there was more chanting, men's voices in Latin this time from the Catholic Church down in the valley beneath us. And when they stopped singing, women's voices began to sing, and then the two voices blended in an exquisite harmony. It was a moment of sheer perfection. Everyone needs this every once in a while, Vishak said. Oh, yes, they do. I agree. Vishak, does this ever get old for you? Is this just another day at work for you? No, I like this, he said. It's never quite the same. I felt the oddest combo platter of feelings in that moment. I felt this urgent need to imprint my memory with every sight, smell, sound, color, because I had this acute awareness, I will never pass this way again. And of course, that is true of every moment in which we live, isn't it? But somehow it seemed more true on that slab of granite. And one who is, I'm embarrassed to say, essentially greedy and always wanting more, I found myself wondering, geez, even with the best of luck, the years I have left for me are fewer than the years I've had some of the clothes in my closet. I wanted more. But there was also this longing for everyone I loved, wishing they could be there with me on that rock and I could hold them. But don't get me wrong. The essential feeling was one of gratitude that this moment is enough, this lifetime is enough. Vishak, I asked, do you know what that word Ecotones means, the name of the lodge where I'm staying? Yes, I think it means like eco-friendly, no? No, it actually means a place in nature where two ecosystems meet that aren't exactly one thing or the other, like where a river meets a sea or a meadow meets a forest. Or where your life, as different as it is from mine, we meet here on this rock, just for this moment. Yes, he said. I wasn't entirely sure he understood the depth of my meaning, but I knew I had experienced something sacred, something akin to Holy Communion. Living with cancer can definitely be a kind of ecotone. I've walked beside hundreds of patients who struggle with, how do I hold this experience? How do I make decisions going forward? Do I live as if I have all the time in the world, or do I make choices as if today is my last day? What if it's neither? What if it's both? And if I have to live as if today is my last day, how do I live with that kind of pressure to make every moment so profound and count? And wouldn't that rob me of the joy of everyday pleasures, the luxury of wasting time? The process of dying can be a kind of ecotone too, as anyone can attest who's walked beside a loved one through their dying process, watching them slip away by inches, leaving us to wonder how much of the person we knew and loved is even still there. A process that can take years. Such was the case with my mom over the last few years of her life, as dementia enshrouded her sense of clarity, even her sense of herself, in a kind of fog, only parting every now and then to give us a glimpse of the mom we knew and remembered. Until a return of lung cancer and COPD showed her to the final exit. I saw her for the last time, March 30th, 2019, not long after I got back from India, and she would die 8 days later, on April 7th. A year earlier, Mother's Day, 2018, she lived on the Central Coast near Morro Bay. Scott and I went up to see her for the weekend for Mother's Day. We took her out to lunch just to get her out of the house in San Luis Obispo, walked around a little bit, and then we just parked it on a bench there in the main plaza in front of the mission. It was exasperating, don't get me wrong, to listen to the same closed-loop tape of frustrations and disappointment and resentment and anecdotes I'd heard 10,000 times before. But it was a beautiful day, and it seemed far more pleasant to sit here and have this conversation, if you will, than to sit for endless hours in her mobile home in front of HGTV. But just then, an idea dropped into my head from someplace else altogether. 16 years earlier, after my mom had survived lung cancer treatment, I took a couple days off work to go see her with the express purpose of interviewing her on videotape exhaustively about her life, not only the story, but what she'd learned along the way, what wisdom sticks with her now. In those 2 days, we made 6 hours of tape. I had never listened to the interview once I had done them. It occurred to me sitting on that bench, Mom, you maybe want to go back to your house and watch that videotape of that interview we made 16 years ago? Of course, she had no recollection that the tape existed or that we ever made the interview, but she was game. Sure, honey, that sounds like fun. My intention was twofold. I wondered what kind of gift there might be for my mom to give her her story back to herself. Might there even be a kind of magic in that? And selfishly, I also hoped to reconnect with that version of my mom I so dimly remembered. And that's not accurate. Of course, I remembered her. I just couldn't connect that version of my mom with this very addled and angry woman in front of me. So that's what we did. We went back to her house and got through 4 hours of the tape in 2 sittings. My mom was transfixed by the whole enterprise, but also thoroughly confused. Now, where was this done and why did we do it? Asking only inches away from where the camcorder had been set up. Look, Mom, it's your same front door. It's your same doorknob right there over your left shoulder. But she was enthralled with the woman on the screen. This is so weird. I mean, I know that's me, honey. And I remember these stories when she tells them, but it doesn't feel like me. She seems so professional-like. I know, I was shocked too. But this is fun, honey. Thanks for doing it. The hour grew late. She was tired, so she went to bed. Next morning, she didn't remember anything, that we had watched the tape or that it even existed. A month later, we went to see her again and would watch the last 2 hours of the tape. For a host of reasons, this would be a far more intense experience. I'd long forgotten that her late beloved Glenn made a surprise appearance in the interview. Oh, there's my Glennie, Mom howled. Hi, honey. It was so sweet to see his smiling self again. But I did remember that my mom closed the interview with a rather tearful valedictory to each of her 3 kids, wanting us to remember, above all else, how much she loved us. To my amazement, the next morning, she remembered everything. Wasn't that something last night, she said. I just can't get over it. And you know what? It makes me feel like it's not so bad to be old, because I just don't care anymore. Everything that used to matter and used to worry me so just doesn't matter. So, honey, I feel free. So thank you. The tide had brought my mom back to me for a moment. We could float around in that ecotone, maybe even catch a glimpse of the eternal before she drifted off again. In February of 2019, not long, it was just before I went to India, my sister Terry threw my mom the most wonderful 90th birthday party. Friends, family from far and wide came. My mom told my sister when she was walking into the party, I'm looking forward to saying goodbye to everybody. Not long after the party, she declined sharply, and after a week in the hospital and a few days in rehab, she was sent home on hospice care. Just to give my sister a break, who had done all the heavy lifting with respect to my mom's care in recent years, I took a couple days off work to go take care of my mom. And I knew that this would likely be the last time I would ever see her, though she did not. She did not understand that she would not be getting better, nor did she understand that she was on hospice. I, of course, had my hopes and expectations of how I wanted that time to be. I wanted to be so conscious and present, aware of the magnitude of this threshold that we were crossing. I'm sure it will surprise no one to know that life doesn't always give us what we want. My mom was so thoroughly confused when she came home from the rehab. On one hand, she knew that this was her house, but she would ask, was my bedroom always here? Did I always have 2 windows on that wall? Was my TV always in the corner? In the oddest way, I was having a parallel experience of disorientation. Is this really my mom? Is this really the last time I'm going to see her forever? But I was present to her as a caregiver, as a chaplain of sorts, but not as her son exactly. I just couldn't connect to the emotional gravity of what was happening, and I was so consumed with my tasks, getting the next meal ready, getting the next set of meds ready, answering the same question 3,000 times as patiently as I could. But I was present to her. In the spring of 2006, thanks to my husband Scott, I took my mom on a week-long trip to Spain. We had the most amazing time. We were in Cordoba one afternoon, and we were walking back to the bus stop to catch the bus back to our hotel, and there was a bit of chill in the air, and we were on the shady side of the street. So I said, come on, Mom, why don't we cross the street? We'll walk on the sunny side. Just like that. We both broke into spontaneous song. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. My mom and I singing and dancing our way across the street in Cordoba, Spain. Last day I saw her, that Saturday, we were sitting at her kitchen table, and I was trying to reminisce with her, remind her of all the wonderful trips we'd been on together, particularly that trip to Spain. I reminded her of that time when we sang in the street. She dropped right in, sang the whole song, knew every word. We could sing it together again. That moment was a kind of an ecotone, a bridge between our very disparate realities, which in the end were not so disparate after all. But still, the moment I had dreaded since I was 4 years old, and the nuns at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Long Beach explained to us kindergartners that we're all going to die. Even my mom. Well, that day was here. And I wasn't there for it. Not in the way I wanted to be. But we did have our song. That following summer, that August after she died, Scott and I had our week in Provincetown, and one afternoon I was huddled under my beach umbrella, tucked in the side of a sand dune in the pouring rain, watching the tide come in over the marsh, waiting for it to get deep enough to go floating. Like my mom, I always loved the rain. That afternoon, I was the only one out on the beach at Herring Cove. Earlier that morning, my brother Steve had sent my sister and me an email. He'd come upon this poem that my mom had written. Judging by the tone of the poem, I'd say it was before Glenn came into her life, so maybe late 50s, early 60s, roughly my age. My mom had always written poetry ever since she was a lovesick teenager, working as a cashier in the box office at the old Egyptian Theater in downtown Long Beach, all alone in the box office and in life, it would seem. She called this poem Ageless, and she was reflecting on the soothing feeling she got when it rained, a feeling that was just as vivid now as it had been when she was a little girl and then a young woman, leading her to conclude that we are ageless in a way, at least in the way that life can get inside and work us over. Over the last few years of her life, it was harder and harder to connect to that ageless part of her. And now that she's gone, it's hard to know at any moment which part of her I'm remembering, which part I'm grieving. Which was the authentic part? I tried so hard that day, sitting in the sand dunes, staring at my phone, reading and rereading that poem, trying to connect to that ageless part of her. And I just couldn't. But my friend Rosa reminds me a womb, Michael, is an ageless place too. It's a kind of ecotone. It's neither existence nor non-existence, and it's wet. What better place could there be for you to sit and contemplate your mother than in the earthly womb of that sand dune, soaking wet? That experience of the ecotone, that bridge between realities, can be, I think, close to what a patient of mine once called a God moment. A moment in which not much really happens, in which the stuff and business of life falls away and just leaves space and room for awareness that this moment is all that there is. And there's room for love. And it's enough. A moment like floating effortlessly on the incoming tide in Provincetown, or admiring a beautiful sunrise in Kerala, India with my friend Vishak, or singing a song one last time with my mom. Ageless, perhaps, yes, after all, with gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. So be it. Thank you.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Oh, I'm so
Do
sorry.
an intro here.
Oh, I'm so
after
sorry.
I collect myself. I want to share this, that of the many condolence messages I received after my mom's death, this one from my friend Buck, who sadly I lost 2 years ago as well, this one meant the most. He said, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry to hear about your mother's passing. She was wonderful, and I loved her. I smile thinking of her. She loved you kids, and made that clear. I remember one Sunday morning when she was with you, when you spoke in Santa Monica. We sat next to each other, talking and joking, always comfortable that way together. Then things got underway. We quieted down, and I kept an eye on her. She was smiling and looking around the congregation, listening intently, hungry for what you were saying, connecting. She could tell you had a gift, could communicate your heart and touch other hearts. She leaned into me and whispered, "That's my son up there." And it was said with an equal mix of happiness, wonder, admiration, and great pride. And then at the end, without skipping a beat, she said, "I just wish they sang some songs I know." I loved your mom. So in honor of my mom, let's sing one song that she knew.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear a pitter pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I need to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I never had a cent, I'd be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that the members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we're seeking to support scholarships for the June 2023 youth camp at Camp de Veneville Pines, which is located in San Bernardino Mountains and offers a week-long camp for kids with outdoor fun and activities for UUs from all over Southern California and Arizona. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, or you can use an app called Banco Mobile. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
The home phone's been disconnected. We don't live there anymore. The moving truck went as expected. We don't live there anymore. New folks will move in and paint over us, over every uncompleted war. 'Cause we don't live there anymore. The children grown, the parents parted. We don't live there anymore. The scraps of 20 years discarded. We don't live there anymore. Photographs and boxes lay defeated. Familiar wounds festering untreated. Debris from my analog childhood, not so easily deleted. The jungle gym used to be ours, but we don't live there anymore. The shouting matches used to burn for hours, but we don't live there anymore. Now history is filtered through a broken lens. The locks have changed on every memory's door. What actually happened to us all within those walls? Well, I guess we'll never know for sure. 'Cause we don't live there anymore. What a relief. What a shame. What a relief. What a shame. Yesterday will never be the same. Yesterday will never be the same. Yesterday will never be the We'll never slam that door again, 'cause we don't live there anymore. The things we never said are in the den, but we don't live there anymore. And they will gather dust far away from us, eroding in the yellow tile floor. 'Cause we don't live there anymore. We don't live there anymore. Now we'll sing our offertory response together. This song expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share. Together we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Now is a time when we honor the important events in our lives And you are all invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. So, let's take a deep breath. Perhaps you come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last day or days or hours that have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you're invited to do so. If you're a roomer, you're invited to come forward to light your candle. And if you'd like to share your joy or sorrow, you can write it out on the slip of paper provided and hand it to me. If you are a Zoomer, you're invited to write out a joy or sorrow in the chat. Once roomers are done lighting candles, I will read all the joys and sorrows shared out loud as Marilyn Giss lights a candle for the Zoomers. As music is played, I invite you to silently offer healing or celebration as you feel called and according to your own beliefs. Is that a little? Thank you. Okay. We do have please light a candle of joy for Kathleen McFarland, who has a candle of joy for her house guests, Vlad, Sasha, and her 4-year-old Max, who are temporarily living with her. They are Ukrainian refugees and a loving family, and she's so pleased to have them in her home. Please remember them as there are unused auction activities they might join. I do have please light a candle of joy and sorrow for Donna McCartney for her twin granddaughter's 13th birthday today. A joy for the teenage adventure ahead and sorrow for the loss of the younger grandchild connection. do have a candle. Please light a candle of joy and sorrow for Beth, whose dad, Paka, on Father's Day, for his love and in his memory. Please lend another candle of joy and sorrow for Maureen McConaughey. Thank you. Yesterday, I attended virtually the belated celebration of life for my brother Johnny, who died just before COVID hit. It was held in Washington State, and he was a wonderful brother. And if you could light another candle of joy for Bonnie Wagner. I have moved to, I'm having trouble. Carmel Village, thank you. I've moved to Carmel Village and spent my first night there just last night. All right. I do have a candle of joy for Judith Stamper for celebrating my husband, Steve, father of my sons and partner for 37 years. I do have another candle of love for Sandy Martin, for Sarah Hunter and her sons and her son, Ian, are taking Rob's ashes out to sea today. They will play his favorite songs, including Blue Boat Home, and send wishes for whales and dolphins to take him home. And please light a candle of joy for Paula Peterson, who is grateful for the new bike rack. I like it. And we have another candle of joy for Lori Kay. Happy Father's Day. Last night I dreamt of my father, John. Very rare. Oh. And another candle of joy from Linda Clough. For another grandchild married a wonderful person yesterday on Fifth Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. A joyful event. And there are two joys from Dolly Duran. What a pleasure it was to have a visit with Jan Roven last Sunday. Despite her inability to speak clearly, we were aided by her son. However, she is as sharp as ever and carries a noteboard with her. She wrote, "Say hi to all." And I told her I would also tell everyone that she is as beautiful as ever. I'm sure she would love receiving a card from those of us who know her. I also had a personal visit with another member, Attorney Thomas Key, a few weeks ago. He's doing well and as happy as ever. I also recently received messages from former member Vaughn Hargrave, who is now planning to do some traveling. All right. Thank you. Let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadness, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, and our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. Let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. Please join Marilyn Giss in a spirit of prayer and meditation.
These are words from Wendell Berry. When despair grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water. And I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Thank you. Amen and blessed be.
Okay, let's join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently, and yet when we are together, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest or a visitor or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to write in the chat your name and where you are from so that we can welcome you. Or do we have a microphone? We'll get to that. Yeah. Do we have a microphone? If you'd like, yes. No, that's different. Sorry. Do we have a microphone? Are there any newcomers or anyone new to our community? If so, Beth has a microphone and we can go ahead and pass that around. Just tell us your name and where you're from. No? Okay. Okay. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you get connected. After the benediction, we will have a short period where everyone can wave and say hello, and after that, you can choose to be put into Zoom breakout groups. No, that's an old script, I'm sorry. Just wave and say hi. All right. All right. Okay, we do have a few announcements here. First, today we do have the Nonfiction Book Club, which is going to be meeting after service at 12:30. After the service in Suite 7, we'll have the Meet Your Delegates so that you can stop by and share some of your thoughts on issues that will be presented at General Assembly. And up and coming is a CPR class at OCUUC. We do have, I received an actual, don't forget the CPR class is scheduled for Saturday, July 1st from 9 to 12:30 here in Daniels Hall. Contact Marilyn Giss if you wish to reserve your space. And then, of course, we do have our regular groups and weekly meetings that meet regularly as well.
As we close, I invite us to close our eyes if you feel so comfortable and take a few nice deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. In our mind's eye, let's imagine us in a great circle, taking hands with one another. And as we do, we feel the energy that passes between us and connects us in the family of things. And we consider again the image of the ecotone, the place between two worlds, a timeless place. May we keep our eyes and hearts open for those mystical places within us. May we float effortlessly in those places and discover the love that is there for us, ageless love, and may we give it away freely. So be it.
This service is over. Let our service continue.